Okay, the first thing I'm going to do if I'm working on an iPad particularly is use yellow to underline what's important to know. 20 patches, 1/4 yellow, and I'm going to write that out as a fraction. 3/4 green, the rest are red. So I don't know what fraction is red. Okay, and now I'm going to summarize the facts. I'm going to do it a little bit visually. So there are, actually I'm going to make this also part of my white workspace. I'm going to summarize like this. So I have 20 patches, and 1/4 is yellow. Oh, my dog is yawning. 3/5 are green, and I'm not sure what fraction is yellow or is red, but the rest are red. And I think it's safe to infer that all the yellow plus all the green plus all the red equal 20 patches. Okay. What color are the greatest number of patches? What color are the least number of patches, and how do you know? Okay, so that sounds like I'm trying to compare 1/4 to 3/5 and to wonder which one is bigger. But the tricky thing is I can't compare the three of them until I know how many are red. So if I was to add them up, I would be able to figure it out. But at the same time, I know that there are 20 patches, and I can figure out 1/4 of 20, and I can figure out 3/5 of 20, and then whatever is left over out of 20 must be red. So there are a couple different ways to solve this. Now this is a question in a unit called comparing and ordering fractions. So I think I will start with comparing 1/4 and 3/5. I'm not sure which one is bigger. And you'll remember from the previous question, on the previous day that we took up math, which was 2 days ago, that we can't compare fractions unless they have the same denominator. So I'm going to try to think of a number that 4 and 5 both divide into equally, and that will be my new denominator. So if I think of multiples of 4, I have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Multiples of 5, I have 5, 10, 15, 20. And they both have 20 in common. So I'm going to use 20 as my denominator. So I'm going to ask myself, what do I multiply by 4 to get 20? And the answer is 5. And if I multiply the denominator by 5, I must multiply the numerator by 5. So 1/4, excuse me, is equivalent to 5/20. And I'm going to draw an arrow just to show that those fractions go together. Okay, now I need to ask myself, what number do I multiply times 5 to get 20? And of course the answer is 4. And if I multiply the denominator by 4, I must multiply the numerator by 4. So then it becomes 12 over 20. So 3/4 is equivalent to 12 over 20. Now I can compare them. 5 over 20, 5 twentieths is definitely less than 12 twentieths. So I'm going to do this. Okay, so for sure I know that there are more green patches. So 3/5 or 12 twentieths are the green patches. And the yellow patches are 1/4 of all the patches, otherwise known as 5 twentieths, because they're equivalent. So if I look at those, if I have 5 twentieths are yellow and 12 twentieths are green, then how many twentieths are yellow and green? Well, 5 out of 20 are yellow, 12 out of 20 are green, so 17 out of 20 are a combination of yellow and green. And now I can use logic to figure out how many are red. If 17 out of 20 are yellow and green combined, then how many out of 20 are red? Well, it has to be 20 subtract 17. And that's 3. 3 out of 20, I'm going to put this in a box because it's an extra piece of thinking. 3 out of 20 are red. So now I have 5 out of 20 are yellow, 12 out of 20 are green, 3 out of 20 are red, and we can write them in order if we like. Let's say we can go in order from least to greatest. 3 twentieths are red, and that is less than 5 twentieths, which are yellow, which is less than 12 twentieths, which is green. And I'm going to use letters to label that. Now the question specifically asks, what color are the greatest number of patches? So we would say then that green are the greatest number. The least patches would be red. Red are the least. And the last part says show how you know. Well, we've already done that. If you truly write down all your thinking as you go, you are showing how you know. So I don't need to add anything separate. I am finished. The only thing I would say is I might like to put a box around my final answer, just so that the teacher can see it. It looks a little bit messy overall, but the color coding helps. I do think it still looks organized. There's a lot to look at, but there's a lot of thinking shown. And if you wrote an answer like this, I think that you would get a pretty good mark. We haven't really demonstrated our thinking in more than one way, but we have shown our understanding of comparing these fractions in different ways. So this could be a 3 plus, could be a 4. We can sort of reflect on that, and maybe you can tell me what you think.